Can we get in 60 minutes of low intensity cardiovascular activity and movement in a day? That's the question we need to talk about today, because we are going to talk about moving in my podcast. We're going to talk about the workout I did this morning. We're going to talk about movement, specifically why it is important and how I break that down. And we're going to talk about one small change that we can make. But the challenge remains, can we get 30 to 60 minutes of low intensity cardiovascular movement or zone 2 activity into our daily routine? And why would that be important? While I make my coffee, thanks for talking, my friends. I hope you're doing well. My name is Toby. I am 41 years old, and I train to live an active, self-sufficient, and adventurous life. I do so by minding my sleep. I try to get between 7 and 9 hours in a night. I have not been reaching 7 hours for a couple of days, and I am starting to notice it. It's not that I'm falling very far short of it. I'm reaching 6.5, 6:45, but always falling just slightly short of 7. And I'll attribute that to the fact that we were on holidays recently, and I am readjusting to the daily rhythm of being back at home still. But that being said, it would be nice to actually find that rhythm and start getting back to those 8 hours of sleep. Remember the glass of water from the first podcast? Here it is. So making a change. Did you take the stairs yesterday? Let me know in chat or in some of the comments in the comment section what you actually have been able to do with the minor changes that I'm proposing in terms of our general health and fitness. Making a simple black coffee this morning, then I'm going to go out for some hill sprints, but I'm just done with my workout, which we'll talk about in a moment. So when it comes to staying fit, active and healthy for living, right? This is about the way I feel, not about the way I look. I want to feel fit, capable, and competent for whatever life throws at me, and I focus on my sleep. I focus on what I eat, try to eat within my energy balance, and I try to eat sufficient greens and variety of foods that incorporates meat and fish as well, but not as the main ingredients. It's usually a very small portion, and also not every day. I mind my training, so I show for mobility training, cardiovascular training, strength conditioning training. I try to spend time with people I love and care about, with my friends, with my family, very vested in the relationships I have, and I try to keep those up as well as I can, given the demands and responsibilities in life that we have. And I have hobbies and pursuits like streaming and making this channel, which I think is a fun hobby to have, but also creative writing, something that I'm interested in and just do for the pleasure of developing the skill and enjoy sitting down and writing, putting words to paper, creating stories. That all taken together is kind of the foundation for my healthy lifestyle, my take on longevity. So if that's something you're interested in, we can have the conversation. You can hit like, let me know you're watching in chat, send some support my way, and we can talk about my health and fitness journey with the eye on why I want to be fit and healthy right now, but also for the future. See, I've understood a couple of things about the environment we live in. First of all, it is very likely that I will reach 70, maybe 80, and very maybe 90 years of age. We are simply getting older, but we're not staying healthier. I think this is a challenge and a problem because I would want to do more with the extra years of life that I am receiving, right? Who wouldn't? So how does that play out? Well, if I look at all of the statistics for the country that I live in, I'm in the Netherlands, it's 6:37 in the morning here, by the way, you will see that more than half the people are overweight, and a proportion of those people is obese. And with the primary cause for that physical state, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being overweight or being obese. Doesn't make you any less of a person or anything. But the primary cause of that physical state, which could be an indicator for increased risk of diabetes, for increased risk of cancer, for increased risk of cardiovascular disease, for increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases, right, is that we live in an environment where sleep is interrupted, where food is always available, but not of a quality that's going to keep us healthy, and where movement is made slightly impossible. And I really appreciate the support you're throwing my way through the hearts. Thanks for that. And feel free to drop by and chat and say hi if you want to, or leave a comment if you'd want to. And that taken together actually creates an environment where we don't sleep, where we eat poorly, and where we don't move sufficiently to stay fit and healthy. So even just the baseline is so far off that I don't think we've realized how far off from the healthy marker we are. But I think it is more likely right now that you are on a trajectory to be unhealthy, and you might not notice the adverse health effects of your current lifestyle right now at 30, 40, or 50. But, as some of the experts say about cardiovascular disease, you only notice it when you have that first heart attack, right? You only notice diabetes when you start experiencing the issues that come with that disease. But before that, there is a long trajectory of buildup of small problems. And some of those problems are related to the lifestyle we had, to those three things that I just mentioned. So for me, it is tantamount important to focus on the things that I can do to sleep better, to eat well, and to move sufficiently. And I break down movements into just an active life throughout the day and training to manage that physical state, or the state of my physical fitness in general, if that makes any sense. And that's why we can talk about the training that I did this morning. So there's an other live stream that I do before this one, because this I record as a podcast. That is a training video and a training session. I live stream it every morning. I do either mobility, strength conditioning. So you can tune in and watch. And this morning I did a light kettlebell circuit every minute on minute. I did push-ups, I did squats, I did overhead presses, I did light deadlifts, and I did bent over rows with a light kettlebell. Took me about 30 minutes because those are 6 exercises, so one every minute on a minute. That's a circuit of 6, repeated 5 times, and we're done with that for the day. And it's all very light because I'm still recovering from a light back injury. But once that back injury is completely healed up, and that might take a while, so I'm taking it easy for at least another 2 months, we'll start doing more intense and heavier stuff again with the kettlebells. But we'll keep it light for the time being, and that's completely fine. That was today's training. Now let's talk about moving. Because I think when it comes to moving, we get one fundamental thing wrong, especially when we talk about movement for health. We think that that means going to the gym or going for a run and doing all of that movement in one set block of time, and that is sufficient to offset everything else that we're doing that is not necessarily healthy and good for us. And I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but that is simply not the way this works. So we need to really think about how we define movement and activity throughout the day. What do I mean by that? I would break movement down into two subsections. That is, all of the things that I do throughout the day that are not sitting or standing, and specifically the training that I do in a day. And I just told you I train every day. I do 30 minutes of something every day, and I alternate between endurance or strength training and mobility. So I actually have a day off of intense activity, because strength training or endurance training usually requires my body to recover, versus the day that I do mobility, which is very low impact, right? But those are 30 minutes of training in a day, and that's about as much training as I think I need. I could do more. Sometimes I'm so in the mood for the training, it goes on for 45 minutes or an hour. That's completely fine. But generally, that is the amount of training, exercise that I get from training specifically. Then there is overall activity. And I think throughout the day, what we forget is that we've done the training, but sitting still the entire day doesn't do anything for our general health and fitness. So yesterday I said, well, what is the one thing that we can do? I think that taking the stairs, for example, more frequently than the elevators. I work in a tall building, and I take the stairs all the way up to the floor that I work on every day that I get there, at least twice, is a great way, I think, of just incorporating a little bit more of activity in the day. And Juicy Thai, thanks for dropping by and saying hi. It's been a while since I've seen you. I hope you're doing well where you're at, and I hope life is treating you well today where you're at in the world. I use them from depression. So first. See, it's easier to lose weight. Love your channel. 100% agree. In fact, I struggle most with food through mid-November through mid-January for 2 months. The short days, the dark days. And that is also the time that I know that I have a issue with my mood. And I think they call it winter depression, so it's not depression, but I can tell that at that time for years, because I've been keeping track of it, is that my mood goes down, and it's always the period that I gain weight, that I start to eat more, that I start to want to pick up the gaming console and game. And thanks for pointing that out and sharing that. I am not a physician or psychologist, but I think in my own experience there is a relationship between my mood and my consumption of food. Absolutely. And I appreciate you dropping by and saying hi again. So back to movement. Outside of training, we want to think about the things that we can do throughout the day that are going to help us reach that activity goals. I know a lot of people are into the 10,000 steps. I think that's great. I think 10,000 steps is an interesting marker in terms of a level of activity. I don't think that 10,000 steps in and of themselves say anything. It's just become a cultural thing that is what we benchmark ourselves against. I think it is more about, not having more than 30 minutes of inactivity. Comparing those 30 minutes of sitting or standing with, 2 to 3 minutes of movement, whether that is an exercise snack like 10 bodyweight squats or 20 bodyweight squats, or 10 or 20 push-ups, and you don't have to do them all consecutively, by the way, or 10 or 20 pull-ups. Or walking up and down the stairs, maybe 3 or 4 flights of stairs, which is, if you take it at a slow pace, about 2 minutes, right? Or just going around the block, walking around for 5 or 10 minutes, and doing that frequently, doing that slightly before lunch, doing that, 20 or 30 minutes after lunch, turning certain meetings and conversations into walking conversations. All of that adds up to the total amount of physical activity that we do in a day. People say that gardening is very good for you, and if you think about it, gardening is relatively low intensity activity, but you're doing a lot. You're bending over, you're picking up tools, you're carrying tools around, maybe you're lifting something heavy like a sack of earth, you are working low by the dirt, maybe you're squatting down and standing up, you are, I should put it, plowing, I don't know if it's plowing or shoveling or raking in between the bushes. So there's a lot of intermittent activity there. And actually, you'd want to mimic that kind of pattern in your day-to-day when it comes to movement and activity. Because it is that continuous low-intensity, steady-state movement that actually will keep us healthier and fitter over time, combined with the training to tackle specific challenges we have as we age in terms of deterioration of our cardiovascular system, our musculature, and our bone mineral density. So it's about movement, and we need to rethink the way we consider and approach movement. All right, one small change that we can make in our day-to-day. There we have a little tomato. So let's look at nutrition. We've looked at hydration. We're having that drink. Right. We're having that drink right out of bed or before breakfast. We are taking the stairs once in a while throughout the day, at least once or twice throughout the day. And I'd like you to just add, like, this is like a tomato, it's a vegetable. You also have the little cucumbers, or just sliced cucumbers, or just a sliced tomato. Add that to lunch or dinner. Of these small ones, not one, about 5 if you really want to, or maybe 10 if you're in a good mood, or combine tomatoes with cucumbers. Just have those before you sit down to eat anything else. Once a day, doesn't matter which meal, it could be breakfast, could be lunch, could be dinner, and see what happens. And with that one tip, friends, we're at the end of this recording of this podcast. I'm going to go out for my sprints. Thanks for dropping by, for saying hi. I hope you're doing well where you're at in the world. For those of you watching, my name is Toby. I'm 41 years old, and I train to live an active, self-sufficient, and adventurous life. And in this podcast, I talk about the training that I did today. We highlight one of the big 5 activities related to health, fitness, and longevity, and we talk about one small change that we can make in our daily routine to actually develop the habits for health, fitness, and longevity bit by bit and over time. Thanks for dropping by. Remember, you're good just the way you are. We've got to love ourselves before we can move on. And the only way to get anything done, friends, is by showing up and doing the work. So I will see you tomorrow. And remember, friends, subscribe.